According to ABC News, on July 4th, 2025, Donald Trump effectively passed the Great Big Bill, where it would effectively cut down on 1.1 trillion USD worth of Medicaid funding over the next 10 years to be redistributed to other parts of the US budget. But many Americans aren't so happy this, and unfortunately it seems that the Medicare healthcare system is going to be on a downhill turn. But just recently on January 15 of 2026, Donald Trump effectively stated, according to the White House, that he would apparently be trying to make the Trump healthcare reform plan, where he effectively will be trying to cut down on medical prices and forcing insurance companies to show how much customers have to pay. But still, with these pretty big, bold claims that he has, with the goals of reducing how much Americans have to spend on healthcare as a whole, it seems imperative to ask today's question. Is Donald Trump's healthcare reform plan a good idea? And the answer is unfortunately no, for three key reasons. Firstly, only reducing drug prices isn't going to change too much. Secondly, insurance companies are the bigger issue here. And third and finally, there's way too many uncertainties within this plan, and it doesn't seem like it's going to work out in the long run. On to the first reason being that only decreasing drug prices isn't going to help this issue too much. According to the KFF, or the Kaiser Founding Foundation, where they effectively research healthcare policies, from their studies, it showed that only 10% of the average Medicare bill was in the price of drugs. With this, it seems that his plan to reduce the price of drugs is only going to have a small effect on the total price that Americans have to pay for healthcare. While sure, some argue that it would be the right step, it unfortunately feels that if he were to actually take this action, not much could effectively be done, as it'll only be a very marginal amount. And on top of this, it's not just medicine, it's also important things like treatment, doctors, other medical equipment that isn't unfortunately covered by insurance too much, and stuff that isn't even covered by pharmacies. And with this, it seems that the only thing he stated that he would actually do is just decreasing drug prices, isn't going to effectively bring too much to reduce the price for healthcare. But still, speaking of these drugs, it's covered by insurance most of the time, and insurances are the ones responsible for covering for the doctors, healthcare, and all that. And with this, it unfortunately seems that it leads into our second point being that Donald Trump's plans to effectively reduce the price of healthcare is going to bring too much good. Where it leads into our second reason being that these insurance companies aren't focused on too much, and it isn't going to bring the healthcare price down. According to The Guardian, Donald Trump described where he would force these insurance companies to put up their prices on how much customers are going to pay up front. This is effectively isn't going to be doing anything to reducing the price at all, only just exacerbating the issue, showing to customers how much they have to pay and how much they're going to have to be putting up with this. But it's not reducing the price at all, only just showing it. And even though it is supposedly to show more clarity and have a much more working system, it isn't going with his main ideas of reducing the prices overall. And with this, with the fact to consider that there's so many layers of the system, doctors, medical professionals that have to be paid, but at the same time, the insurance companies unfortunately also have a hidden problem. According to the according to CNN News, 33 cents out of every dollar that the average insurance company takes for healthcare, unfortunately, is just extra processing fees that go up to the big heads and CEOs, where they describe that it would be used to help fund the system and to get the pay that they deserve. But in reality, this could just be cut out as a whole, making it a lot easier for Americans to properly pay how much they need, effectively cutting the price by 32%. But but Donald Trump is only planning to just making insurance companies show how much they have to pay to the average American citizen. But still, there's a lot of uncertainties within Donald Trump's planning, and that's exactly the third reason as to why this won't work, because there's way too many uncertainties within his healthcare reform plan. According to Forbes, when Donald Trump was questioned directly on who would be eligible for these healthcare reform benefits, he unfortunately fell short and didn't have much to say, where he promised that every American would have $5,000 given every month to hopefully pay for their medical insurance. But according to CNBC News, if the Medicare cut over the next 10 years would make what would be $100 into $1,000 every month spent on healthcare alone. And Donald Trump described that anybody eligible for the healthcare reform plan would get $5,000 per year to help cover those Medicare costs. But that's not even going to help the issue, as these Americans are still going to have to pay 60 times as much, 6 times as much per year, where they're going to be putting up with a lot more Medicare prices even with this benefit. But at the same time, he's not even showing who's eligible for this, and it seems that he doesn't even have an effective plan set for who could be done taking benefits of this. And it seems to be showing that he hasn't really cared too much about the American citizens and hasn't really been doing too much either. And so, with Donald Trump planning big and boldly for reforming the entire US Medicare system, it unfortunately seems that he hasn't been doing too much that's going to be helping it. And it's for 3 reasons. Firstly, it unfortunately seems that his plan to reduce drug prices isn't going to have too much of a big impact in the long run. Secondly, him not focusing too much on insurance companies is a major oversight and is a responsible cause for these high prices, but he isn't taking too much care of that. And third and finally, there's way too many uncertainties within this healthcare reform plan that make it seem ineffective to work.